Hello, students. Yes, two announcements in one day. This one, though, I think you might find at least a bit amusing anyway. So, uh, week 4. We're on week 4, and one of the assignments required you to draft a citation in AP format. And a lot of you did really, really good. I was impressed by that, but a few of you seemed not to quite get what was called for. Now, that's a little surprising because in week 3, there was a video um, titled Accessing the APA Style Guide. And if you'd followed the steps set out in that video, you would have been able to access the APA guide and get the correct format for a citation in AP format. Now, if you struggle with that, the good news is that I would recommend that you review the AP style guide and revise and resubmit. But in the meantime, I think it's worthwhile to say something in explanation of what citation formatting is and why it's important. So the first point is probably the easiest. What is it? Well, various fields of academia have standardized different style guides and formats for citing sources in their given fields. APA and MLA are probably the two most common. Brahman has selected APA as its standard format. But then we get to the more interesting question. Why is citation format important? Well, for that, allow me to draw an analogy admittedly from a non-academic source. So let me change my background here so that we can get today's cameo appearance. So, yes, this is the notorious band Van Halen. And why are they relevant? Well, let me share an interesting anecdote with you, which I think makes for a good analogy for the importance of using proper citation format. So back in the 80s, if you recall, one of the more popular and outrageous bands was called Van Halen. They were called hair bands because they were notorious for wearing big hair. Obviously, I'm not qualified. So one thing that they became notorious for, however, was when they did live shows, they had a clause in their contract to the effect that there should be a bowl of M&Ms backstage, and that if there were any brown M&Ms in the bowl, that would be sufficient reason for them to not perform, and the venue would bear the cost of the cancellation. Now, at the time, that was taken as just another example of diva-like behavior on the part of a popular rock band. But only a few years ago, the rationale for this requirement was revealed. And let me share it with you with the appropriate background here. Here we go. So, what was the rationale? Well, here's the thing. This was, dare I say it, quite brilliant. I admire brilliance wherever I find it. The rationale for this requirement was that their show was incredibly elaborate and required the people running the venue to ensure that everything was just so before the band went on. If the backstage people took the time to read and comply with the brown M&M ban, that indicated they were similarly detail-oriented in fulfilling the technical requirements before the show could go on. What does that have to do with citation formatting? Well, I'm making a rough analogy here, but I think it stands up. You see, in academia, scholars are expected to be disciplined, focused, and detail-oriented. If an academic writer is disciplined, focused, and detail-oriented enough to put all the requisite information for citation in the proper citation format, in the correct format, that, like Van Halen's bowl of M&Ms, presages the skills, ability, and dedication for quality scholarship. Put another way, adhering to the requirements of style guides, including citation format, makes you, the writer, more credible as an authority in academia. just as removing the brown M&Ms was indicative of a venue that could be trusted with providing the requisites for Van Halen to perform back in the day. So I'm making an argument from analogy, but I think it's a fairly accurate one. Also, I think it's an interesting and amusing bit of pop trivia. So that's why it's so crucial that you read the APA style guide and write your citations according to that format. Ciao.